want you to stay safe this hurricane season. So naturally, we are checking in with our friends at TEMA this morning. That will come in form of the Operations Chief and Assistant Director of TEMA, Melaura Agbeko. Good morning and welcome to the Now Morning Show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning to listening and viewing public.
Well, we're glad that you're making the time to have a conversation with us, because if we were to shape the viewers and listeners' perspective, if you will, of what we can expect this hurricane season, what are some of the predictions you can share with us?
At this time, we take into consideration our historical trends. And our historical trends tell us that there is an increasing amount of activity that happens in the Atlantic basin. And because of that, it is our responsibility right across the board to ensure that we do our best in terms of preparation, in terms of mitigation, and in terms of making sure in the event of anything happening, we are as ready as possible to be able to recover as quickly as possible.
Now, I think that gives us a bit of insight as to TEMA's role and responsibilities then. What does that look like on a more granular basis? Is it related to, let's say, the individuals or even communities? Are there specific activities that we can look to TEMA for in this hurricane season?
Correct. So we at TEMA look at embracing a comprehensive disaster management model, which means that we take into consideration everything from preparedness and mitigation all the way to recovery and response. So what we do is that we work closely with our stakeholders. Just yesterday, we had our Tobago Disaster Management Committee meeting. It's a monthly meeting. We had that yesterday just to ensure that all of our partners, all of our stakeholders are all on the same page with regard to ensuring that the community remains prepared. Right now, we are seriously working very hard to ensure that we have our Hit the Streets campaign that should be coming to you very soon. That would allow us to engage with the communities, each one of the communities on the island, to ensure that everyone is prepared. In addition to that, we have our Hard Target campaign where we partner with Med Services, the County Medical Office of Health, and some others to ensure that all of our stakeholders, schools, everyone is prepared. And further to that, because we're very busy, we have our CERT 1000 virtual training that is happening this weekend and next weekend, where we would be looking at very basic modules in disaster management, the incident command system, making sure that we have things down like our database management and so on, just to ensure that we have all bases covered.
Well, Melaura, it sounds like you do, but that would mean from the individuals who live in communities to those who participate in helping when we do have disasters striking. We have a number of stakeholders that are being targeted or involved in these multiple campaigns. Tell me a little bit more about each one, because it sounds like we may be able to play multiple roles in being prepared and even post-disaster.
Correct. So I will start off with the CERT 1000. CERT 1000 is our brainchild with regard to ensuring that there's comprehensive volunteer management on the island. So what our aim is within 5 years to have a minimum 1,000 volunteers across every community, well trained, well skilled, so that in the event of any emergency, in the event of any disaster, they can be their first response, allowing the major bodies to focus more on the major events. So what we look at doing is ensuring that the CERT 1000 teams in all the different zones across the island are trained in several disciplines, such as I mentioned before, the incident command system, basic disaster management, even small tools, so that in the event of a tree falling or a landslide happening, they can be their first response. So that's the CERT 1000 initiative that we really push, because it's something that allows the community to have that community first response. As it relates to the Hit the Streets campaign, the Hit the Streets campaign is where our teams hit the streets and we go around making sure there's that community outreach and sensitization as to exactly what persons can do in the event of an emergency or disaster. So it allows us to inform persons to make sure they have things like grab bags, so that if something does happen, they're able to sustain themselves for at minimum 72 hours. So that grab bag would entail things like non-perishable foods, making sure that your documents that would allow for identification are well sealed. It would allow you to have things like flashlights, batteries, and so on, just to make sure, as I mentioned, to have that 72-hour response for yourself ready. And so that's what our Hit the Streets campaign is. And then
Right.
we also have a hard target campaign where we ask persons around Tobago to make themselves a hard target, meaning that we have to embrace our realities here on the island, that we are in the hurricane belt, and we are also part of a seismically active zone. So anything can happen. And taking all those into consideration, we partner with various stakeholders to go around to meet persons where they are, in the schools, in at hotels, wherever they are, just to make sure that they have the necessary information that would allow them to have that self-response first.
I really appreciate how thorough these campaigns are in terms of tackling preparedness, the actuality of it happening, and a bit of the post as well. I'm curious, though, going back to the first 1,000, that is, how close are we to reaching those sorts of targets? So, number-wise, do we actually have anything near 1,000 persons in any of the communities that we are targeting so far?
I would say yes, because when we had initially opened up the program, we would have gotten a major subscription where we have over 600 persons who are already signed up. At this time, we have at least 300, and I believe 60 of them, 360, who have been trained in the disciplines that I would have mentioned before. And right now, we're looking to capture the rest of persons in terms of their training, the basic training, this weekend and next weekend, so that they will be either able to have that refresher, or the ones who were not captured before are able to have that initial training. Because a person who is well informed is a person who makes better decisions. Because when we know better, we do
We
better.
do better.
And yes, correct. So with that, our CERT 1000 is a well-subscribed program. It's something that we are quite proud of, and we are continuing to grow it every single year. And we're hoping, I know that we would have put out ads and so on for our virtual training this weekend, and very quickly we would have reached our limit in terms of subscriptions,
Good
in
problem.
terms of making sure that persons do sign up. So hopefully, as this hurricane and wet season continues, we will continue having more opportunities for training, because I know that there are a lot of persons who are still very interested, and I don't want them to think that it's a one and done. This is a continuous thing that we are doing.
Right. One of the continuous things that you mentioned is the monthly meetings within the communities as well. I'm curious a bit as to what sort of feedback you derive from that, especially as we get ready to prepare, or as we are preparing for the season itself.
Yeah, so that monthly meeting is actually with our Tobago Disaster Management Committee, which is our all stakeholder approach to disaster management. So anyone who has a stake in disaster management is part of that meeting, is part of that committee. So we have everything from our security standpoint, our medical standpoint, our NGOs, PVOs, many different faith-based organizations are part of the Tobago Disaster Management Committee. And what that allows us to do is to have everyone around one table having one conversation. So I like to use the phrase one band, one sound, which means that we have everyone who understands exactly what their role is. So in the event of an emergency, we are having a much more coordinated response and coordination, because what tends to happen is that disasters or emergencies can become very chaotic very quickly. And when persons are not aware of roles and responsibilities, it can create inefficiencies. And one thing I have to really say is that on the island, we have a very well-oiled and efficient process, because this committee has been in place for a very long time. And because of that, it makes our jobs at TEMA a lot easier, because our stakeholders stakeholders are well aware of what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Everyone knows exactly in the event of us being activated, which is when we have a threshold that we meet and we have to actually activate our Tobago Emergency Operations Center. Everyone is well aware of roles, responsibilities, and the coordinating mechanisms therein.
Well, it sounds exactly like that we could get in touch with you guys and get information on time, action will be taken, and that we can have full, well, trust in the abilities to capabilities to address the matters at hand. But if you were to think of some tips or some things that we should focus on from the top of your head, just to close, what are some tips that you want to leave with the nation as TEMA is getting ready for this hurricane season?
I would say to ensure that, one, you have your necessary grab bags to sustain you for 72 hours. We saw what happened with Beryl last year. It could have been our reality here, and we want to ensure that persons are prepared as possible. I know that we tend to sing our song, it's our mantra that God is a Trinbagonian. However, we also have to make sure that, we also know that God helps those who help themselves. So we have to make sure that we do the necessary we take the necessary steps to make sure that we ourselves are prepared. What I would also recommend is that you please subscribe to our various social media accounts, inclusive of our new WhatsApp channel. Our WhatsApp channel is something whereby we can get onto you directly so that in the event of anything, that information can quickly be broadcast to you and you understand exactly what is happening. We would also recommend that you subscribe to PANS, which is the Public Alert Notification System. You can find that on www.odpm.com/PANS, and it would allow everyone to be able to get the messaging via phone, email, fax, smoke signal. I'm kidding about the smoke signal, but it's so comprehensive. You're able to have a lot of ways to be reached. In addition to that, we do recommend that you stay abreast of what is going on. Make sure that you stay abreast of all the different campaigns that we have going on, that you make sure if you see us in the streets, you touch us, you say, okay, definitely can I get some information? Because when, as I mentioned before, when you know better, you do better. Right?
Well,
So there's
we
so many
definitely know
different
better
ways.
now, Laura. You've given us a
And one
bevy of
thing,
information.
thank you so much. And a couple other things that I would also recommend is know your shelters, know where your shelters are. It's very important. If you head over to our Facebook pages or even our website, www.tema365.com, you'll be able to see the necessary resources there as well.
We will certainly visit and revisit with you as we get ready to be more prepared this hurricane season, but you certainly have helped us this morning. We know better, so we'll do better. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you having me this morning. Have a good one.
Melaura Agbeko, the Assistant Director and Operations Chief for TEMA over there in Tobago, giving us some insightful information that we can definitely use. We've got more of that after these messages, so please return.